time. And the hope is that American companies will innovate and be able to capture that next wave of what a vehicle of the future looks like in order to compete with the Chinese. For example, autonomy, Waymos and Teslas and NVIDIA's powering really amazing vehicles of the future, moving away from EVs to AVs and robotics.
But even if Tesla gets the tech right, skeptics say the business case isn't there. If one of these companies, much less 4 or 5, figure out how to make fully autonomous robo-taxis at scale, they could pack the streets of every city with them.
There's no limit to how many robo-taxis Google can make because they don't need humans. So they can just keep making more and more and more of these things. And so what happens is that as this is deployed in mass scale, pricing comes down and the scale players will be profitable, but it'll be like Amazon where you have a small profit margin and you have to have large scale.
There's also more to running a rideshare business than just driving the car.
You replace the cheapest part of the system, which is a minimum wage driver, by a very, very expensive technology. And you need to hire many people around it to replace the driver, because the driver was also the guy who cleaned the car, also doing safety.
Then there's valuations.
There's no estimates for these growth verticals that they're going to go into. And you need to have more estimates for how much robotaxi revenue they're going to generate. And those estimates don't even exist. So what are we comparing it to? There's no benchmark or ruler out there that we can say, I could say, oh, well, consensus thinks they'll do 50 million in robotaxi revenue in 2029. I think they'll do 75 million, so I think that this stock is a buy. There's literally no estimates.
So, 3 hurdles to clear. Tesla needs autonomous tech. They need to be at least as good as Waymo or anyone else. They have to make money in what could be an extremely low-margin business if it's a business worth doing in the first place. Then there are the robots.
So this year, we hopefully will be able to make about 5,000 Optimus robots. We're aiming for enough parts to make 10,000, maybe 12,000.
So the idea that we're going to have some robot that's super useful that can do all these things for us anytime soon is a fantasy. It's just a sci-fi fantasy. When basic things like the Roomba are still struggling to wash our floors, and then the longer-term business of building robots is a highly competitive business with no real market yet. So selling consumer robots to me is like a pie in the sky bet. I'm an activist investor, and I still think Tesla has the best products and services.
But those products and services, he says, are the EVs, energy storage devices like Powerwalls, even the solar roofs, which Musk once gave as much attention to as the products he is touting today.
Tesla is losing market share, big part because they are not pursuing the lower cost model. Absolutely a strategic mistake, and maybe it's not the US market, it's the global market that really asked for this car.
Ford and GM can't compete at all with these Chinese companies at all.
Bak, fabrikayı göstereceğim. Yediğin ekmeğin fabrikasını göstermezler. Ama ben bunu göstereceğim. 1,5 milyon hasta ispatlı iyileşti. Vallahi şeker hastalığı, tansiyon, kolesterol yalan. Bitti, bu hastalıklar çok basit hastalıklar. Ama kimyasal ilaçlar çözüm bilerek bulmuyorlar. Çünkü siz iyileşirseniz Yahudi para kazanamaz. O yüzden iyileşemiyorsunuz. Ama hocam çözdü, savaş açtı onlara. Hepsini bitiriyor. Şimdi fabrikayı bir izle. Bu ürün nasıl yapılıyor, nasıl bu hale geliyor? Hep beraber bir görelim.
İlk aşamadayız. Fabrikadayız. Her şeyin başladığı noktadayız sevgili izleyenler. Sevgili İbrahim Saraçoğlu hocamızdan özel izinle işte sözümüzü tuttuk. O meşhur maydanoz, limon, sarımsak kürünün yapıldığı yeri aşama aşama, kademe kademe göstereceğimize söz vermiştik. Bakın sevgili izleyenler, 20 bitkinin kristal hale getirilmiş bembeyaz özü ekleniyor ve bu da bitmiyor. Yanında da aynı bitkilerin sıvısı alınıyor sevgili izleyenler. Bunun yanında bu sıvı da aynı kazanın içerisine giriyor. Şimdi mühendisimiz dediği gibi burada 20 çeşit bitkinin tozunu aldı. İçerisinde bu kazanın şu anda az önce görmüş olduğunuz soyulan limon, sarımsaklar ve maydanozların özleri var. Ve tozumuz da onlarla beraber eklendi. Şimdi artık sıra ikinci kürümüzü kazana dökme sırasında. Neydi ikinci kürümüz sevgili izleyenler? 20 tane şifalı bitkinin sıvı hale eklenecek. Evet, şu anda mühendisimiz tarafından kazanımıza ekleme işlemi yapılıyor. Çünkü bu da hemen eklenmeli. Burada çok çabuk olunmalı sevgili izleyenler. Bunlar eklendikten sonra hemen karışıma başlıyor. Hani o izlediğiniz personeller tarafından özenle ayrılan, parçalanan, bölünen limonlar, sarımsaklar, maydanozlar vardı ya. Onların toz haline gelmesi gerekiyor sevgili izleyenler. İşte onun toz hali gelecek. Onu bekliyoruz. Eyüp Bey'e söylemiştik kendisine bize getirmesini, ulaştırmasını. O toz hali de geldikten sonra artık karışım işlemimiz tamamlanmış olacak sevgili izleyenler. Kapımızda çaldı zannediyorum. Mühendis Bey, siz de bakarsanız. Eyüp Bey hoş geldiniz. Teşekkür ediyoruz. Şuna bir bakar mısınız sevgili izleyenler? Şuna bir bakar mısınız ya? Altın renginde. İşte sizin o sevgili izleyenler izlediğiniz limon, sarımsak, maydanozlar vardı ya parçalanan. Onları
real competitor to the Chinese companies is Tesla, but they haven't been able to introduce a lower price point car, and they're losing that share of the market very quickly to the Chinese.
Musk's public reputation is deteriorating, and the backlash against him is hurting Tesla.
I can't walk past the TV without seeing a Tesla on fire. Like, what's going on? Some people, it's like, listen, I understand if you don't want to buy our product, but you don't have to burn it down. That's a bit unreasonable, you know? Like, this is psycho. Stop being psycho.
The bad news for him is he's only got one way for him to go now, which is down. So this honeymoon of, I don't know, what was it, a month? It's over. And if the board of directors actually did what was best for Tesla and had a real CEO and refocused its image on what it really does well, which is make EVs and batteries and charging, and really did that business, it's an incredibly important company for the future.
The challenge with simply returning to EVs is that if Tesla is merely an automaker, its share price may be way too high.
Tesla's a very expensive auto OEM compared to the growth you're getting, compared to the margins you're getting. And I think they benefited from a unique moment in time when people had a lot of discretionary income. Oil was more expensive because the Russia-Ukraine war was starting, and they sold a lot of EVs at very high margins.
It trades over 105 times earnings, which is not only expensive to the overall market, but that's even more expensive than its own historical average. So I think for all those reasons, whether I find another place to add my money or I wait for a better entry point, I would not jump in with 2 feet at Tesla right now.
If you're buying Tesla because they sell EVs to you and to the public, the stock's overvalued, we think, right? If you're buying it because there's a very large growth opportunity in their energy storage and generation business, and there's a very large growth opportunity in Optimus and FSD and Robotaxi, then the stock really can work.
This stock has a maniacal retail investor base. It's basically, it's a cult, right? And so how do you deprogram a cult? Or what causes that to happen? I don't know. But it's a cult that's made a lot. It's a cult that's made a lot of money, which is even harder to think about when it ends.
What I'm saying is hang on to your stock. So